It's time for A's Gaming Horrorthon. Gaming Horrorthon. So, let's begin this year's Horrorthon with February 2016's Layers of Fear. Have you ever wondered what would happen if an artist's work took over his life and became his obsession? Well, that's precisely what happened to the main character in Layers of Fear, as he let his wife, kid and dog all get shunned. He took up drinking and focused solely on doing one thing: painting. The game explored this artist's descent into madness.
Hickory dickory dock.
The backstory here was all explored via the usual methods of picking up various items and receiving snippets of information about the past. It was a tragic story, exploring the breaking down of a relationship, the neglect of a child, and at the root of it all, a horrific accident. Funny, isn't it? You could pick up all sorts of weird and random shit, but not the one thing you really wanted to pick up, that damn annoying ringing phone. As you walked the corridors and heard the eerie sounds of a woman crying, you constantly felt unnerved and as if you were in some form of danger. But there never was actually a threat in the game. Or was there? No, there wasn't. Despite the ghostly apparitions, there was no way of actually failing at Layers of Fear. That wasn't really the point. The point was to leave players feeling deeply uncomfortable. Jump scares are often considered a pretty cheap way of getting some kind of emotion out of a player, but there's no denying that some of them here blew your fucking balls off. At times, this game was genuinely terrifying, you know, shiver down the back of your spine kind of stuff. It had you constantly afraid of turning around, see? You know a game's scary when Tobin Bell just pops up behind you.
Hello, A. I want to play a game.
Don't look back. Ready? Here we go. Yeah, love that shit. It's like the game was designed by a psychologist or something who knew all the right buttons to press to create as scary an experience as possible. It was often subtle, it was often not. But this change of pacing meant that you were always on edge and looking forward to that next big event. There was no logic to the layout of the house. Corridors would morph, doors would appear. It never got old, turning around to see a completely different room to the one you thought you just came from. It was a total mindfuck. One of the creepiest parts of the game were the paintings on the wall. Wow, who the hell would come up with this sort of thing? There were the odd puzzles in the game, but nothing too complicated. The aim was to collect 6 different unique items and bring them all together in the artist's final workroom to hopefully create his final masterpiece and get the best ending in the game. Yeah, there were multiple endings depending upon your actions and depending upon what collectibles you found. This is a game that is definitely worth checking out. When it was first released, it seemed like everyone was playing it, as there was a huge push to raise some awareness about the game, which is always nice to see, especially for a horror game. Well, that's the first game down in this year's Gaming Horrorthon, but we're just getting started. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and if you did, then click here to subscribe to A's Gaming Moments. And as always, thanks for watching. See you next week.